Hello. Hi, everybody. This is day 2 of a little experiment we're doing at 10% Happier. We're calling this 10% Happier Live. As I was saying yesterday, if you joined us, we dreamed this idea up just days ago, and we're just trying to make it happen. And so if there are technical glitches, then accept our apologies. But we're working to get our tech game tighter as the days proceed. So we're going to get much better at this as we go. But just if you can bear with us, that would be great. And we are going to be doing this every weekday, 3:00 Eastern, noon Pacific, for the duration. And we've got incredible teachers lined up. On Thursday, we've got Sharon Salzberg, and on Friday, we've got Jack Cornfield. And today, we have my friend Will Kabat-Zinn, who's beaming in from the left coast. Hey, Will, how you doing?
Hey, Dan. I'm good, and hello, everyone.
I asked yesterday. We had Oren Sofer on, and I'm curious to ask this question of you too, which is, how are you doing? I mean, how is you're a meditation teacher? How's your? Sorry, by the way, I'm going to have this feline attacking me for most of this show, and he's now biting me, dude. How is your anxiety level?
Through the roof. No, I'm half joking. It ebbs and flows, and I notice that, I think one of the things about our frameworks are changing so quickly. And I noticed that in my own mind, just based on the news, just the idea of the way things are is so in flux that I notice a little surge of unsettledness when that framework breaks down and there isn't another one. So that's why, I'm practicing with that. But I think this is why the meditation practice is so important right now.
Yes. So speaking of, just so people understand the flow here, we're going to do, in a minute or two, we're going to do 5 minutes of meditation. So super quick. And after that, you can go on your merry way. Or if you have time, stick around, because we're going to take your questions and run them by Will. And if you have questions, you can type them into the comment section of YouTube. And part of the guiding principle here is that we're trying to create a sense of community. As one of the little mantras that's popping up these days is, physical distancing doesn't have to mean social distancing. So we'd like this to be a place where we can all hang out together, both humans and animals. Will, before we dive in, can you just give people like a sense of your bio, so they know who you are and how qualified you are?
I'm a little qualified, but
you're pretty qualified.
Yeah, so I've spent nearly 20 years kind of steeped in the meditation domain, and spent a good chunk of my 20s in and out of retreat, and studied psychology and worked as a therapist for a while. And I'm involved with Spirit Rock Meditation Center. You're going to have Jack on in a couple days, and I work, teaching lots of different groups and retreats pretty much all over. Including we've done a little bit together too, Dan.
Yes, we spent some time at your friendly neighborhood $1 trillion company, Apple. Although I guess maybe their stock price has gone down a little bit. So let's do a little meditation. You wanna tee us up and dive in?
Yeah. So for all of you sitting at home and practicing, wherever you are, this is an invitation. We're sitting together, and this is part of why I think it's so wonderful that we're doing this live, is that you may be alone in your home, but you're actually sitting with all of these other people now who are tuned in. I don't know how many that is, but quite a few. So I hope you can feel that even as we take our seat and practice something that can sometimes be thought of as a solitary endeavor. And we are not alone in this. So taking your seat, however you're sitting, in a posture that's kind of relatively upright and relatively relaxed. And noticing that awareness is functioning, meaning the sounds are arising in the environment and being known. And this is the natural functioning of your own awareness. So just receiving the soundscape. And also your own body is appearing in awareness. You can include the sense of your whole body sitting. feeling the support of the ground, the contact of your feet on the floor, the contact of your body on the chair, the cushion, the couch, whatever you're sitting on. Just being aware of the body as a field of sensation. And putting out the welcome mat for whatever is here now. So whatever feelings are present in your body, whatever emotions, if any, are present or predominant, whatever the state of your mind in this moment, whatever thoughts are happening, just noticing that whatever is happening for you is happening in awareness already. And just including it exactly as it is, just for right now. And now again, sensing the whole body sitting. And feeling the breath moving in your body. Just the gentle ebb and flow of the natural breath in the body. And riding on the waves of sensation as you receive them moment by moment. So the breathing, the sense of the whole body sitting can be like an anchor for your attention, a home base, a refuge, a resting place. So featuring the breathing, resting with the breathing, while letting whatever else is happening happen in the background. So we have a support for our attention in the breathing body, and also a kind of radical openness to whatever's arising in the field of experience. So breathing and breathing with things as they are, even as the states in your body move and change, your thoughts come and go in the background. So we're breathing and breathing with a moment by moment flow of experience, exactly as it is. And this is how we can meet and include our inner experience, which is so much a part of how we experience the world. And so much of what we're facing moment to moment as we move through this crisis, this challenge. Can we breathe with the sensations that arise in the body, with the strong emotions that come, with the states of mind and the thoughts, the worries, or the wonderings? And to know through it all that you also have a refuge, a place you can go to in the body, and to take a break, something that is here all the time, and it's not based in the ups and downs of thinking, just the felt sense of sitting here and breathing with life, moment by moment.
All right. Thank you, Bud. Appreciate that.
Welcome.
I'm just looking at the comments as they come in here. This is from Pam Tomasetti. Cats have a different view of social distancing. That is true. That is true. He has actually distanced. He got bored during the meditation, so my cat Toby went away. Emily Ballantyne. Will, do you think now is a good time to practice meditating on impermanence, and how would you recommend doing so?
Well, I think one of the things we can see is that, normally we don't perceive the mental frameworks, the conceptual frameworks that we have going, which are so much based on the way things were yesterday. we're really oriented around expectations. And one of the things I think we can all see right now is that our expectations of the way things are breaking down from moment to moment and day to day. Right? So that's a place normally we find stability, is in our idea of the way things are. And that's a place, I think that's a reason why there's, part of the reason why there's so much anxiety right now is that these frameworks are not stable. And so I think it is good to check the news a couple times a day and orient around the changing conditions. But I think a lot of the time we also need to have a refuge in the breathing body because the concepts are so impermanent, because the mental structures are so impermanent. So even just to connect with the actual analog world for a few moments can help bring you some stability in the midst of all that change. I don't think we need to meditate on impermanence now. We can actually just see it operating.
Yeah. Here's a question from Vermont Bound 330. With a pandemic like this, how do we avoid quote unquote future thinking when there's so much uncertainty? Are there any phrases to help stop and focus on the present?
Yeah. Well, this may seem strange coming from a meditation person. I think it's actually important not to forget the future, because sometimes in a pandemic, and they know this from like 1918 and stuff, that actually afterwards people looked back and sometimes felt badly about the way they had behaved and operated. So I think it's actually very important to remember that this will pass. There will be a time on the other side of this. Yeah. And so, so for now, we need to both maintain a sense of, there is a future, and also not get caught up in our fears and worries so much from moment to moment. So we need to both work with the thoughts that are arising here and now, and remember that there is another side of this. So what we do now matters. One of the things I'm so hoping for all of us, and so for all of you as practitioners, is that you will practice with the states that arise. Because what you don't witness in awareness then shapes you. Okay? So when fear arises and you start to have fearful future thoughts, please include it in awareness. Breathe with it so that it doesn't take hold and shape you. Because we really need clear minds right now. We need all of you to have clear minds for your families and for each other and for our community.
Yeah, just to put a fine point on a couple of points that you made there. One is, whatever strong emotions, impulses, thoughts are arising in your mind that you are unaware of drive you blindly. But you can see them, even though it's uncomfortable to see your anger, your fear, whatever, then you have more, you're less liable to be owned by that emotion. And that's one of the main skills we're teaching here in meditation. And then on the bit about, just to add on what you were saying about future thinking, we get this question a lot about anxiety. How do I stop being anxious? But there's a certain amount of future thinking or anxiety that really makes sense. And it's adaptive. It's there to protect us. But it's when it flips into panic and overwhelm that we want to be able to do what Will's describing here, which is to touch in on the sensations of your body or anchor in on the feeling of your breath, because that can kind of short circuit this spiral. That might be a mixing of metaphors. Sorry. There's another question here from Ms. Rizzler. How often does Will practice daily during times like this? How does he intersperse mindfulness throughout his day?
Yeah, well, one of the things I always practice every morning, but one of the things I've been doing is why you're so good, so good that you're doing this is, I've been sitting every morning and streaming it on YouTube so that people in my community can also sit every morning and practice together. And I think that, so I always practice every day, but I think now other people are realizing that, we have to practice. Okay? This is a time when, so much of the time we're used to just being so busy that we don't have to deal with ourselves, except for those of you on 10% Happier, because you know the importance of that. Right? But I think for the rest of the world now we're realizing, oh, wow, I'm going to have to work with this mind and body stream. This is actually really important. So, practicing formal meditation, I think, is just so important every day to keep, perspective. But also, for me, this is about all the time. Right? Everything is always happening in awareness. We just forget to notice it. So this is, through the day, that's my reference point. But I also have lots of reminders because of the work I do. And so that's like a little bit of, maybe it makes it easier for me.
And oh, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you there. I thought you were done. But just to clarify, you keep using this term awareness, and for the uninitiated, just to give people a sense of what that means, it's a hard to describe concept, but basically we are conscious beings. There's some knowing faculty of our mind that is beneath the thinking. It's aware of whatever we're thinking. It's aware of hearing. It's aware of seeing. It's just the raw, basic consciousness that comes with being a sentient animal. And so that's what you're referring to when you talk about awareness.
I'm talking about everything that's happening. We just think of it as the world is appearing to you. Everything you're seeing right now, that's appearing in awareness. And just usually we don't notice that. Yeah, so it's actually not that hard to describe. It's so much a part of the fabric of our experience. And the problem is, one, we don't recognize it. And that's something that's very connecting, even if you're staying away from people. Wow, everything you see is appearing within your own awareness. That's very close. Yeah. And the thing we're just not used to including in that awareness is our own mind and body. And that's why, it's so much our thoughts shape the way we see things, or our emotions shape the way we're experiencing the world from moment to moment.
Dan F. has a question. How do you recommend finding a balanced path that is precautionary yet not as an alarmist or too dismissive?
Yeah. Well, one of the things I think is it's very important to take in the recommendations that are being given. And I think a lot of times we think of, being helpful or being compassionate as an action we take. And it's very different to think of actually supporting the community or having an act of love be not taking an action. Right? So I encourage you to take all the precautions that are being recommended, and to think of it, and this is just a framework, as an act of care, as an act of love. Because when you think of it as an act of restriction, it gets very limiting feeling. When you think of it as an act of support or love or care, then it feels very connecting. And that's something that those of us who, have done so many meditation retreats understand. A silent retreat where you're not talking to people is actually a way of supporting each other and doing a kind of deep inner work. So, yeah.
I like that framing. I keep cutting you off. I apologize. This is the danger of video. We're all learning this in the work from home era here. But just again, that you say things, and I want to just amplify your point. I've been writing a book about compassion, which is kind of a word that has been pounded into meaninglessness through rote repetition and cliche. But there's been a lot of scientific study of compassion, and it's generally considered sort of empathy, feeling what other people are feeling, and action. Or the desire to act, the intention to act, to help out. And there's an enormous amount of science that shows that this is an ennobling state, that is an empowering state, and that is really good for your body and for your mind. And that's what this quote unquote doing nothing that we're doing by staying home is. And that's why I really like your framing, Will, that this is, by staying home and doing nothing, actually, we're doing something huge. We are saving other people's lives.
And it's also an opportunity for you, all of us who are so habitual, to actually slow down and deepen, right? So that's what the function of a retreat really is, to create some limiting conditions. You're not doing the usual thing, so that you can deepen in your own understanding of yourself and your own consciousness. And I think that's one of the things that, of course, we wouldn't have wanted this situation in any way. But that's one of the things I really want to encourage people to use this time to understand themselves better, to pay attention to what's really important, and to use the practice as a support in that process. So if you just ask somebody to stay in a room and contemplate, that's a pretty tough ask. But with the structure and support of the practices, you really have a scaffolding for doing that.
Will, it's great to see you, if only virtually.
Nice to see you, Dan. Yeah, pleasure. We can connect like this, and so nice to connect with all of you out there.
Yeah, well, we're going to be doing this for a while, so we may be coming back at you. Let me just say a few final words. Well, okay, great. Again, sorry.
Yeah.
The crosstalk. It's so funny. It's worse on the phone when you're doing conference calls, but it's also hard on video. People just talk over each other, at least in my experience. But I just want to say a few things before we go. Tune in same time tomorrow. Susan Piver will be our meditation teacher. Thursday it's Sharon Salzberg. Friday it's the legendary Sharon Salzberg, and Friday it's the legendary Jack Kornfield. What else do I want to tell you? If you want to be reminded every day about this, you can follow us, subscribe to our YouTube feed, and then you'll get reminders. What else do I want to tell you? And yeah, if you can just do us a solid by telling everybody you know about this little thing we're doing, that would be fantastic, because we really do want to get the word out. And Toby's trying to make a last-minute entrance here. Maybe he'll do it before I say goodbye. Will, thank you again. Really appreciate it. You did a great job as always.
Thank you all.
See you tomorrow, guys.